As a young poet, I had always adored the work of Kenward Elmsley. I don't know how many times I read and reread Circus Nerves and Girl Machine among his many works. So when Paul Hoover and I became board members of the Chicago Poetry Center, we were eager to invite him. He came to read in early 1981, and I was lucky enough to sit across from him at the dinner preceding the event. Luckier still, in a way, I was sitting there when a drunk, homophobic member of the board began to tease and harass him. My solution to this was to endlessly talk to Kenward and shut the lunatic out of the conversation. I got along splendidly from the start with him. There was much laughter and gaiety between us. It was as if we had always been friends. We began a weekly mail correspondence that lasted 25 years. Our letters were newsy, intimate, and hilarious. And our first meeting, led to an invitation to visit his beautiful summer home in Calais, Vermont. We drove from Chicago with our 6-year-old daughter and marveled at the beauty of his gray house with the orange shutters, his pond, the cottage by the little pond where we stayed, and all the beautiful furniture and Joe Brainerd paintings on his walls. And then there was Joe, who was initially shy with us, but very warm with our daughter, who quickly developed a huge crush. Days were spent at the pond where Joe and his black trunks and lots of suntan oil would work on his wonderful tan, and the Pagets and their dog would often visit us too. One afternoon there was a snake in the garden which terrified our daughter and increased Joe's hero status in her eyes when he kindly moved it to another location. Dinners were Kenward's daily offering. He'd write until late afternoon. The most memorable was a 4th of July banquet with whole giant lobsters and fresh peas from his garden, floating in butter. After dinner, there was a hilarious game they called Shit on Your Neighbor, where several times in the game you would dump all your cards on the person next to you. As we played this, we drank lots of Jägermeister. We were quite drunk and sick, me, by the end of the evening. Our week there was glorious. I was in love with the place and Kenward's collection of blue bottles. Solo visits with Kenward in New York followed, where I stayed in an austere beautiful bedroom in his tall, skinny brownstone in Greenwich Village. The most memorable of these visits was one where I was reading with David Levitt at the Poetry Project. I was writing fiction then. Kenward was working on collaborations with artists along with Joe. Artist Kentiza was at dinner. Kenward made a delicious meal, including the best soup I ever ate, cream of artichoke, and Joe brought me a gardenia. There were more visits of Kenward to Chicago, one which had a cabaret feel. Kenward had begun performing his poem song Sneaky Pete, Tango Bang Bang Beautiful, Who'll Prop Me Up in the Rain, and Air. The large audience was ecstatic. Once he flew us to Columbus, Ohio for the world premiere of Chekhov's Three Sisters. We met at Emissary. From his 80th birthday, I read a cento from our letters at St. Mark's. Kenward was in good spirits but needed a wheelchair, which Ned Rorem inquired about. Why the wheelchair? Because I can't walk well. Another wonderful surprise in our relationship were the frequent vintage postcards sent randomly and always on my birthday, a barrage signed with funny aliases, including Richard Nixon and Tarzan. The postcard images were pertinent to the names. The last time I saw Kenward was in Vermont in 2013. His memory was impaired by then, but he knew me and the other visitors and told us fantastic stories involving a fox under his chair in winter and ladies from town who drowned working on his garden. I imagine he didn't appreciate them taking over his job. I will so miss this wonderful man and beautiful writer of operas, songs, one sung by Nat King Cole called Lovewise, and acrobatic, totally original and surprising poems. He could be a bit testy, as we all are, but mostly he was a kind, generous, holy, wonderful friend whom I loved dearly. As our tribe says, he was a mensch and my best friend for 40 years. Thank you.